Hello, everyone. I'm Amy Lassen, and this is the Allegiance Way Show. Today, we are still in our Dominate series. And for those of you who did not catch previous editions of our show, we have covered sphere of influence marketing, technology systems, all the major elements you need to establish yourself and thrive long-term in real estate. Today, we're going to talk about geographic farming. This one is very near and dear to my heart, only because when it's done right, it can be an extraordinary pillar in your business. It can help to promote your brand and give you consistency over time. It can be a really efficient way to focus your marketing dollars and your time. As a coach, I am a professional real estate coach. I am disappointed sometimes when I have agents come to me and say, I've been farming, I've started a farm, I would like to start a farm. And they, oh, hi, Jessica, yay, we have people joining us. And I will ask some really basic questions about the analysis that they did for their farm, what their intention is, what their goals are, and they just won't have one. It's like, well, I sent a postcard 6 months ago, nothing came of it. I want to get really clear that that's not a farm. When you have that little proactive intention and execution plan for it. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what it would look like to plan, strategize, and execute an incredible marketing plan in a geographic area and get maximum return. Now, some of the most successful agents you know have a geographic farm. They focus in a particular neighborhood or area or zip code or type of construction and do really, really good. And I think you know who I'm talking about. Some of those agents, it just feels like no one can go up against them because they are so prominent. They are so preeminent, as Charlie says, in that particular area. So one really good reason to consider it. And the truth is that all types of lead generation that we are ever encouraged to try, expireds, FSBOs, going after your own people who already know, like, and trust you, all of these require some sort of a strategy that is consistent over time with promoting your own value proposition, right? You need to convince the people that you're talking to that your value is such that they should take you up on your offer of listing their home or helping them find their next investment property. So promoting your value proposition over time is really what we're all doing, right? Farming is not so different. I was actually talking to a real estate coach. Let's see, how long does it typically take to establish a farm? Jessica, that is such a great question. And I have an answer, but I was teasing a coaching client earlier this morning because she asked this very same question about getting maximum return from your sphere of influence. And I said, we do have some numbers, but it depends on you, right? The quality of what you're sending, the consistency of what you're sending, the turnover rate in the farm. And we're going to talk about those numbers, but bare bones, most coaches and trainers caution you that if you're expecting to get a return on investment sooner than 8 months in an area where you've never marketed before, you might be being unrealistic. Now, if you say, I'll be relaxed, I'll continue to do my work and know that I probably shouldn't expect anything sooner than 8 months, everything else is gravy. You get your first listing in 4 months, that would be great. But Jessica, the truth is it really does depend on where you're targeting and what you're saying. You can burn money if you're sending the wrong thing or to the wrong people. I had a coaching client who desperately wanted to farm her own neighborhood. Super, super cool downtown area, amazing properties. There was a 3% turnover rate in that area. So just to be clear about what that means, hello, Nancy, I'm so glad you're here. So a 3% turnover rate, if there were 500 homes in her neighborhood, and 3% of them turn over in any given year, that's 15 potential listings total, 15 total. Is there competition? Is there another agent in there? And for her to spend however much, and we'll do the math, farming to those 500 houses faithfully year after year with just not very much potential for listings, that could be a waste of money. So in that case, Jessica, she could have worked so hard for years and years and maybe gotten, 1 or 2 listings a year, and I don't know that it would be worth that. So in that case, amount of time wouldn't help her because the turnover rate wasn't healthy. So the thing of it is, sorry, hang on a second, I'm checking my notes because I have a lot of things to share. The great thing about farming is that when you pick an area that is cohesive, okay, and that is another healthy thing. When you farm to an area, you want your message to deliver equally to everyone. So if you pick an area that you just like the area and there's some really entry-level condos and there's some super high-end and there's a little bit of high-rise and it's just all over the place, a little bit of rural thrown in for good measure, your marketing message, your updates aren't going to be hugely helpful to everyone. Ideally, you're going to pick an area where everybody has a similar type of property so that when they get your market update, they go, oh, I see. Look at that. My neighbor's house went for whatever, right? And they can keep track of the market over time. I have coached people who send a consistent newsletter, a consistent marketing piece that has the update every single month of what's active, what's under contract. And when they get called, get that come list me call and show up at the house, there will be a stack of those on the table. They've kept track, right? So that's the value in having the farm area that you choose have a consistent type of product so that the updates you give them really do have value and they get to save them. Okay, I wanted to make sure we didn't have anybody new joining us. So farming can be an incredible pillar in your business if you focus on it. And let's talk about what those pillars might be. I am a huge proponent, and so is Charlie, of picking a lane and staying in it, right? Be super consistent with your marketing to your sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence is all the people you know who know you, that if you stay in touch with them over time, they would be willing to use you or refer you, right? Your sphere of influence. So really do a consistent job of marketing to them. Have an incredible listing launch marketing plan that generates leads, right? A subset of that for me is open houses. So in my business plan, open houses are a subset of my listing leverage, and that's a pillar for me, all right? Sphere of influence, listing leverage. Those are two pillars for me. Geographic farming is an incredible third pillar. Maybe you have expireds. And when I say pillar, I don't mean that you accidentally got a deal off of answering the phones at the office once. I mean, that's great and that's a source of business, but it's not a pillar. It doesn't hold up your business. It's not something you focus on day in and day out. So geographic farming can be an incredible pillar that holds up your business and gives you predictable outcomes so long as you're consistent. So who should be farming? Let's talk about that. I think it depends, because I have newbies come to me and say, I want to start with geographic farming. So I ask a couple of things. How big is your database? How many people do you already know? And are you communicating with them already? I'll have people say, oh, I grew up here. I know a ton of people. And I say, terrific. What are you sending them? And they say, nothing. I want to do geographic farming. Well, the biggest return on investment is always the people who already know, like, and trust you. So here's my little disclaimer. Before you ask your manager, your broker, your coach, your trainer for help setting up a geographic farm, make sure you're maximizing that very best, most lucrative source of all, your sphere. Okay? Send out a monthly newsletter. Actually, I shouldn't dig into it. We have a previous show on that. Go back through, go to theallegianceway.com and watch the show on that. But make sure you've maximized marketing to your sphere of influence before you add a geographic farm. But maybe you're new to an area. Maybe you don't know that many people and you really do need new things. My second question is this then. How much money do you have in the bank? So to Jessica's question, how long is this going to take? If you don't have savings that you can market and stay consistent over time, then you might fail. And I'm not trying to be a downer, but I had someone at my office come up to me and ask my advice, and she said, I've picked a farm area and I'm going to mail 2 months in a row. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to quit. And I said, please quit now. Those 2 postcards will be flushed. So think of this as like a farm. And I've said this before, that when you put a peach pit in the ground, it takes quite a while to make a tree and a heck of a lot longer to get peaches to make peach pie. So really have to be committed that you're going to plant these seeds, you're going to water them, you're going to be patient. And then that you're not going to bounce, right? Don't plant peaches one year and tomatoes the next year. That's not going to be consistent either. I don't know if that analogy works for you, but farming a geographic area means planning to be there for a long time. You want to market and dominate with most of the listings in this neighborhood area, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe the rest of your career. There's no reason to start it if you don't imagine longevity, all right? I'm going to show you some of the math that I have done. I need to name this so that I can find it easily. So hang on, I'm going to share my screen and show you the math that I have done to help you out, okay? So this is an example. I need to make this bigger so I can see it. Okay, so here's an example, all righty? Imagine that you have 524 homes in a particular neighborhood. And you may say, well, how do I find out? If you have Realist attached to your MLS, you can search there. Lots of your title and settlement companies have software that will help you identify farm areas. So first of all, you need to know the total number of homes. Then you want to know the average yearly sales. And I do an average across 3 years, because sometimes when our markets are volatile, we have really big sales years and some down sales years. And so you want to know really what is a good average. So average out how many listings have sold for the last 3 years. And in this case, the average turned out to be 35 listings, okay? 35 properties sold in this farm area of 524. The way you calculate your turnover rate, bear with me, this is technical, but I have a really, I'll show you the document I created for you that you can download that will help you do this yourself. So divide the total number of houses sold last year, or in that average for those 3 years, by the total number of homes, and that gives you your turnover rate. And in this case, it looks like we have a 6.7% turnover rate. 6% is generally established as a healthy minimum expectation. Like I said, the lady that I was coaching who wanted to farm an area that had a 3% turnover rate, maybe not a good use of her marketing dollars. Now, this could also depend on the average price. Some people farm really, really high-end areas. Maybe they have multi-million-dollar homes in there, and the average commission is so much higher, they're willing to live with a lower turnover rate. You need to do the math on that and make sure it makes sense for you. For most of us, with the averages in our MLS, the average price, a 6% turnover rate is a really healthy place to start. So I've done a little bit more math here. If you had an average sales price in this farm area of $425,000, and you generally get about 2.8% commission. I just put that in as an average, all right? You need to know what your average commission percentage is. Then the average commission for the homes sold in your farm area would be $11,900, okay? This is just really important to know. This is the potential I have right here in my farm. 35 listings sell every year, and that's about $11,900 that is earned on each one. So 35 listings every single year. How many of them do you think you could get your first year? And this is to Jessica's question. I want to make sure I didn't miss any more questions. How long is this going to take, right? Well, it depends on the content. It depends on whether you're willing to also knock, have events, and we're going to talk about what some of that could look like. How quickly can you get into the hearts and minds of these people and have them believe that you are the expert? My particular neighborhood, there is nobody farming it. Nobody farms my neighborhood. And I've thought about this a lot, but I coach and train so much, I haven't taken the time to farm my own neighborhood. But because I monitor the quality of the stuff that comes out in my neighborhood, I get probably one postcard randomly per year from a different agent. And it really cracks me up that they think that one postcard is going to do them any good at all. So anyone, in this case, Jessica, if somebody, oh, you're doing events, oh, cool, but someone else is already farming it. Okay, that's real. She's making such great points. Thank you, Jessica, for jumping in here. In my area, if I were to do a really good job of giving them market updates, I think I could gain traction sooner than 8 months because no one else is doing a consistent job. When you're competing against someone else, that kind of depends. And it's too bad Jessica's not on here live that we could have this conversation. Depends on how much they're dominating. It depends on what they're sending, right, as to how stiff the competition is. And then the events can be huge. So keep commenting, Jessica, because I'm going to talk about the events that I had in mind as suggestions. But let's keep going through this scenario. When you want to decide what the plan is and whether you should launch a farm, you do all this math, and then you ask yourself, how many do I think will get the first year, second year, third year? Probably by the third year, you've reached that market share percentage that you were really hoping to attain. And you have to figure out what's worth it to you. If you could do 4 transactions, 4 listings in the very first year, with our scenario, we're talking about that first year, you would have nearly $50,000 in commissions. Okay, would it be worth it that first year? You want to do the best that you can to be made whole on all your marketing dollars and know that there's an upside and there's more coming. Well, let's look at what this cost might be, and keep commenting, Jessica, because I want to hear from you about how realistic or unrealistic these cost estimates are. So if you mailed monthly to these 524 homes at a cost of $1 a household, now I think that's bare minimum, but it could be a beautiful half-page size full color postcard that you could do for $1. That is $6,288 a year for the mailing of that really nicely done postcard every single year. I have another scenario with a folded piece. So tabloid paper is the size of 2 pieces of paper, okay? And when you use tabloid paper, it makes a really cool, almost magazine, but it's basically a single piece of paper folded, which is really cool. So really, really big, and it ends up having the surface of 4 pages. 4 pages like that with a folded piece, printed full color and delivered, can be about $2. That's an incredibly quality piece. You can have local happenings in there. You can keep them up to date with the stats. You can do some case studies, right? What did it take to get your neighbor's house sold? I saw a really great piece where an agent bulleted out the work that she had done to get top dollar for the house. And it wasn't days on market. It wasn't multiple offers. It wasn't we got over asking. And those are cool things to say. She actually bulleted out all the work she did, which was so much more than the average agent was willing to do. And it was really persuasive. So in a larger piece, you could do that. And you could do that for about $2 a household, which would probably be worth it. In that case, that would double this number and you'd be at more like $13,000 a year. Now, remember, if we only closed 4 listings in the farm, we're at about $50,000 in commissions. So think it's worth it? Since Jessica is engaging, I should ask. If we had more of a $13,000 a year marketing budget, and the very first year we hit 50, would it be worth it? Let's see if anybody else listening will answer. It would. I think it would. I think it would, and especially because there's an upside, right? We're going to keep growing. You're sending a postcard. That's great. So we're looking at maybe you do 4 closings the first year, maybe 8 closings the second year. What is the highest market share you could hope to attain? Well, it depends. Some agents really do dominate their farms and get about half of all listings in there. That's a pretty high bar. You just want the farm to pay for itself. Interesting. Okay, so let's keep going. The first year, of course, right? You want to break even in that first year and then have hopes to keep going and growing. That's terrific. So here are some of the events that I put in my scenario, and Jessica, keep jumping in here. So here are the things that you could do beyond the mailers. All right. That first year, you could host a yard sale in the spring. Oh, it says in the springs. That's silly. In the spring. And that might cost you about $1,000. My sister does that every single year. She does maps. She does flyers. She does tons and tons of signage. She does donuts and orange juice for everyone who participates. There's lots of mailers to get people engaged, to get them to say that they want to participate in the yard sale. That could cost you as much as you want to spend. But $1,000 would be a perfectly healthy amount. You could do American flags in the summer. Have you ever done this yourself? Gone around the farm, and I've done it in the middle of the night. It's exhausting, but it's really cool. You just go and you poke in an American flag in the grass, every single house, and they wake up the next morning and they're everywhere. It is the coolest look. My partner and I used to do that in our farm area, and we would just do it at night. Now, if I had it to do over, I'd definitely get my assistant to do that. But this was back when I was young and crazy. A dumpster in the fall. And you can even get a co-sponsor in a lender. But having 1 or 2 dumpsters, maybe in a cul-de-sac, let people know that it's going to be happening. Let them clean up their yard waste. You may want to guard the dumpster. I had someone tell me that somebody brought a bunch of construction waste and they didn't even live in the neighborhood. So, but a dumpster in the fall, it shows this pride, not pride of ownership, but pride of the neighborhood. Makes a really, really big impact, and people love that. You can also do a food drive around the holidays. That can be a really low cost touch. Oh, Jessica says she's doing a charity event. That's awesome. So a food drive around the holidays, you can hand out bags. You can just drop a flyer and say, please leave your canned goods on the porch. We'll come pick them up. Whatever that looks like to you. These can really, really, oh, a shred event. Cool. Thank you, Jessica. So these can really take you above and beyond. Here are the other things that are an absolute must when you're farming. Mega open houses, right? Don't play small when you have a new listing in your farm, right? You've got to do everything possible to promote that listing and show the quality of your marketing service. I know an agent who buys the phone numbers of everyone in his farm areas, and he calls every single person. Maybe it's a voicemail drop, maybe he reaches them voice to voice, but lets them know that there's a property coming up, lets them know when the first open house is going to be. Make sure people really, really hear from him and they see his signage and they get his mailers. When you do a mega open house, balloons for open houses in your farm. Heck yes. So when you do an open house, make sure you're using 20 or more directional signs. And I know some agents who choke on that, and I know some agents who say that's too few. And you might say, well, my farm area is not that big. How could I possibly use 20? Well, every possible direction, and 3 on each side in intersections. Like, go nuts. And I am not even kidding. The people who absolutely crush it with both farming and open houses do tons and tons and tons of signage. And you're just taking it over with your brand when you do it that way. So maximum signage is a must. Door knock several times a year. That may be way too much above and beyond for you. You may have more money than time and you just want to be able to mail and not have to do the shoe leather and the knuckles. But where do you get the phone numbers? Oh, well, you can buy phone numbers from things like Mojo will sell you lists, Kohl's directory. I'm wondering about RedX, if you can buy zip codes and farm areas from RedX. I'm not sure, because RedX you can buy, expireds and FSBOs and things like that. But I know you can from Mojo, and I'm forgetting the other one. So if I think of it, I'll put it in the chat later, what those other sources are. Yeah, but you can buy those lists. So door knocking can just get you face to face with people. When you door knock with a particular value, it can be really helpful. And I know a lot of people are afraid of door knocking, but when you have something positive to do or say, it can be really, really effective. Now, in this time of social distancing, that will probably have to wait, but put that in your thinking cap and think about that. So here are a couple pro tips to help really set you apart in your geographic farming. You may want to mail an extra piece to the homes on the corners and the main streets. All right. So if you're sending some sort of a newsletter or market update every single month, a postcard, do that second piece, and this is just for cost savings, to the houses that would have the biggest visibility if you were able to list them. So I got this from another agent. This was his trick. So he would send that second piece, which is maybe a 2-for-1 in the community. I send the 2-for-1 postcards to my whole community with, really cool local restaurants and things. If you don't want to do 2 pieces a month to your whole farm, that second piece could just go to the prime real estate that you most want to get in front of. Another pro tip would be to do those special quarterly mailings, right? Maybe you have a real consistent thing that you do every single month, and then quarterly you do some sort of a review, something, a bonus. Also, I had mentioned earlier that folded, gosh, I wish I had a piece of tabloid paper. It's just the size of 2 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. That's how big tabloid paper is. And when you print on those, it just makes almost a magazine, but it's a single piece of paper and it's folded. That can be a fantastic one, and you can do that for about $2. Now, you're going to need to get somebody to do the formatting for you and make sure that you hit your deadlines. You have to commit to this. I got to look at what time we have. We have 6 minutes. When you commit to this, when you've decided that this is worth your while, coming up with the content and hitting your publishing deadlines is absolutely vital, right? I have clients who really are committed. They've done the math, coaching clients, let's get clear, and they know what they want to achieve, but then they just overthink the content and they miss their deadlines. And then maybe they'll come to the coaching conversation with me and say, oh, well, I just kind of forgot. I fell behind and I didn't do it last month. No, 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 no. Find a way, put a system in place that is not an option. There are services that can do it for you if that's going to be a problem. Coming up with the content and hitting those publishing deadlines. Yes, yes. Thank you for reiterating that. So, so, so important. But please don't overthink the content. There are a lot of simple things that you could do. You could do some local love, and you could do the exact same stats every time. Active, pending, and sold for 30 days. Active, pending, and sold for 30 days. Local love, active, pending, and sold for 30 days. That could be the thing that you put out there. And just please don't overthink it. The consistency will take you everywhere. So now I want to show you, we have 5 whole minutes. I want to show you this other document that I created for you. So this is, oh, can you even see it? I don't think that worked. Hang on a second. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll start again with this other document. Okay, here we go. So this is the absolute step-by-step how-to for doing a farming analysis. If you don't have a coach who can walk you through this, I have done this for you. The step-by-step of what it would take to get a really good choice for a farm area and then how to execute. All right. Other things that you may want to consider, and we talked about this too, how many homes in that neighborhood are similar, right? It's really, really healthy to market to similar neighborhoods. Now, you also want to think about what is a healthy size. The healthy size of a neighborhood usually has to do with what you can afford, but also if you're farming 100 homes, that's a lot of prep. That's a lot of content generation and a lot of stress to hit your publishing deadline for not a huge potential, right? That 6% turnover rate in 100 homes is only maybe 6 listings a year. Are you going to get half of them? You just want to think about that. I think 500 is a really healthy-ish number to start with because it's a big enough number to make it worth your while. If you have a bigger budget and you can commit to the long term for 1,000 houses or something, think about this. The amount of work that you spend creating the content, organizing the events, getting the stuff in the mail is the same regardless of the number of houses, more or less, right? So what happens when you double the size of your farm is you're doubling the cost, not necessarily doubling the time. So take on as much as you can that you can afford reasonably for the long term and that has a consistent, what am I trying to say? You know what I'm saying, that it's a consistent type of property so that the market updates are valuable to the people who receive them, right? It's not confusing because there's a multi-million-dollar listing in there and an $80,000 condo, and your person in the $400,000 house just can't see how that's relevant to them. So go for consistency and go for a reasonable number, 500 to 1,000, whatever you can afford and commit to long term. Is there an adjacent move-up neighborhood? This can be a really valuable way to market to both and really dominate. Is there another agent marketing there? And Jessica said that there is. But are they a dominant agent? I never try to discourage my coaching clients from just running from a fight, but you also may want to pick your battles. Any advice for those of us trying to steal a farm from someone else? This is great. So this is what we're talking about. The word is homogenous. Thank you, Dylan. Similar for those who don't have such a fancy vocabulary. So how do you steal a farm from someone else? This is where I think you have to be super realistic, Jessica. And I'm not saying run from a fight, but you want to look at the quality of the work that's going out there. So there is a couple in my marketplace. They've been working in real estate for a really long time. They not only provide an extraordinarily quality service, they do an amazing job of marketing their listings, but they're really nice people. They're the two of them, this husband and wife, they are gracious, they are kind, they are thorough, they are fantastic. And I really don't know that I would want to try to out-farm them. And maybe that's a bad example, but I really want you guys to hear me. Pick your battles well, okay? So when you're going up against an agent that you absolutely respect and you already feel like anybody who would choose them would get extraordinary service, maybe you don't want to try to out them, okay? That may not be the most productive use of your dollars. Because here's the other thing. The harder the fight, the less effective your money. In my neighborhood, it would be shooting fish in a barrel because nobody is marketing here. So unless you're just, Jessica, if I were your coach, you'd have to tell me why you're so in love with an area that that is being dominated by somebody else that you want to fight that fight. But it's just an analysis. It's where you live. Okay, so Jessica, please know that, oh, Kevin joined us. That's hilarious. So Jessica, know this. I don't want to discourage you. And if I were your coach, we would have a really, really in-depth conversation about this. So don't take anything I'm saying here on a live broadcast as gospel, because I don't know your details. But I have had people say, I want to farm it because I live there. And that was their primary reason. And they didn't have enough other good reasons. So make sure you do all the analysis. All right. Ask yourself, what is the competition and what would it take to compete or to dominate, and then ask yourself if it's worthwhile. Maybe that requires a consultation, because I don't think I can offer you a fair answer here while we're live. And how much time we got? Oh my goodness. So we are at 30 minutes. I'm going to provide this to all of you. All right. This is the Allegiance Way. Remax Allegiance is providing this geographic farming how-to for you. It is 2 pages long. It helps you walk you through all the math and all the alternatives. Consider having a lender co-brand and co-sponsor your mailings. That can cut your cost in half. So this is going to be available to you on the allegianceway.com. If you have not checked out all of our broadcasts in the Dominate series, please go to the Allegiance Way and check those out. Every single component of your business we have addressed, and we will continue to as our show evolves. We are taking next week off because we are completely retooling our show, and we are going to make an amazing new product for all of you to get current stats, current market watch, and best practices for growing your business and being organized. I hope to see you all in the future on the show. Bye, everybody.